on to our next quarterback here, Coach. At the 108 in the draft, we had the Atlanta Falcons kind of surprising everybody and taking Michael Penix. That was a big time move at the moment. They had just signed Kirk Cousins to a massive deal. Kirk Cousins has been a roller coaster this year. He's had some real highs, including a primetime game where he scored a ton of fantasy points for our teams. But then the last 3 or 4 weeks, he's really, really struggled, especially with the turnovers and kind of making plays, missing throws. His age is showing, the lack of movement with the Achilles is showing. So it's kind of up and down. Coach, what are your thoughts about Michael Penix, the Atlanta Falcons, and kind of what's going to happen with this quarterback situation?
Well, Matt, this is a tricky one to me.
Mhm.
Obviously, they're paying Kirk Cousins a lot of money. That matters. Kirk Cousins, like you said, has looked really good throwing the football. Sometimes not. Like here recently, he's really struggled. I think a lot of it's going to come down to how the Falcons finish the season. Can the Falcons win the division? And the division was set up for them to win. It's been sort of gift wrapped for the Falcons, who have an abundance of talent on offense, a decent defense. This should have been the year the Falcons win the South. If the Falcons find a way to do that and you make the playoffs, then I think they may ride with Kirk Cousins again. If they don't, then it could be Michael Penix time. That being said, if I'm a rebuilding owner, now might be the time to go try to get Penix, and grab and stash him for later. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think right now is probably the cheapest you're going to get Penix, should it work out. Obviously, I know that's easy to say, but that's kind of the situation we're in. If if the Falcons kind of struggle the rest of the year and we get a benching of Kirk Cousins, I think they will play Penix. And if Penix performs well, and I talked about this the other night with Hoff and Pete, if he steps in and let's say Kirk loses the next 2 games against the Vikings and then loses to the Raiders, and the Falcons are very frustrated because, like you said, the South is a division that should be won by the Falcons. They've spent a bunch of money in trying to get involved and invested to win this division, and they've just kind of been ho hum as far as it goes. So I think if you can get Penix in there where he takes on the Giants, Washington, who struggled on the back end, and then Carolina, that's a situation where he could surprise people and play well. And that's momentum into the offseason. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen because I think it all hinges on how Kirk Cousins is going to play going forward. But I'm not opposed to buying him. I get he's 24 years old, and I understand that they have Kirk under contract for 3 years, I believe 2 more years after this season. So you'd be looking at a 26-year-old starting quarterback. But we're also not too far removed from when the Green Bay Packers started Jordan Love after 2 years of sitting. And you know how old he is? When he first started, he was around 26 years old. So it's not that far fetched for me to see him really taking time to develop in Atlanta. Yeah, I think that teams are now seeing that maybe we need to wait on some of these guys. Maybe they need to adjust to get into rhythm. Not everybody's going to start right away like Jaden Daniels and perform well, or Bo Nix. That's kind of the outlier.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like, I really like what Atlanta did. I really like their plan of like, let's just sit him and let him develop. Like, I think that's going to pay big dividends for them and Penix down the road. So let me ask you this question: would you rather have Michael Penix or JJ McCarthy? Which situation do you like better moving forward?
I still lean JJ McCarthy. I know Coach knows this. I made a trade earlier in the year where I have Michael Penix and I traded him to the Kirk Cousins owner for JJ McCarthy. And the reason I did that is because I have Justin Jefferson, and Coach and I say this all the time that Justin Jefferson is the best player in the game. So I want the guy who's attached to the best player in the game. We're seeing Sam Darnold be really relevant um, in Minnesota right now, and Sam Darnold has had a lot of question marks on his entire career. Have those been corrected? Yes, they have, and that's to his credit. but I also think it's part of the offense. It's part of having Kevin O'Connell as your head coach and having really, really great playmakers in Aaron Jones, TJ Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison. Like those are impactful players that they can have right now to use in their lineups. So I think that if I can get the quarterback that's throwing them the ball, there's value there. But I would be remiss if I didn't tell you the risk, because there is risk.
Yeah, absolutely. There's major risk. The unknown alone is risk. So if you were a Michael Penix owner, what would you have in order to move him?
I think if I'm moving him, I would need probably close to a first. I'm not sure you're going to get a first from anybody just because he's not playing right now. That's going to be your toughest sell. So I would want at least 2 seconds, somewhere around that. So that way I can try and make a move and maybe replace what I paid, because I think most times Michael Penix was around the 203 to the 208, somewhere in there in most super flex drafts. So if I can recoup my costs and add something on top of that, I'll take it. But personally, for me, he's a buy. I'm not going to sell him unless I need something to go and win a championship right now, because what we know is these quarterbacks can grow in value, and should he start, his value could triple. And you can't say the same for a lot of wide receivers. Should they hit, a lot of times they're only worth about a first or two firsts. If quarterback hits, you can have them worth 3 firsts or 4 firsts. So that's a major investment for me.
Well, man, what you just said has got me thinking. Like, if I'm a contending team and I'm drafting late in the first round, I know that's coming. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to sending like 111 for Michael Penix. Like, to me, that's a
Mhm.
risk I might be willing to take, especially if I can stash him and just hope it works out. Because if it works out, I'm gonna get 3 times that investment. So I like that risk.
Yeah, spot on. If you can flip that and really make a profit off that as far as it goes value, then you should. Um, I think looking over at keep trade cut, this kind of might be leaning towards something that we should talk about. He's quarterback 21. So he's pretty far down there. His value is just, like I said, right there around a late first. 2 seconds. It just kind of depends on how the picks fall. But is that an investment that you think we should be making, Coach, for our teams if he's quarterback 21?
Yeah, I mean, possibly. I mean, that seems like that's a roll of dice I'm willing to try. I mean, I understand the unknown. Like, I get it. There's unknown with pick 111 most times too.
Hmm.
Like that's sitting around this past year like a Keon Coleman. You know, Xavier
Exactly. Yeah.
Legette. Like, yeah, I mean that to me that's a risk worth taking.
Yeah, I think that kind of sums it up for us. I mean, I think there's a real opportunity there, so we should probably be buying Michael Penix if we can. Like you said, it's a investment that we could really turn into something that might be bigger down the road, or if you have yourself a quarterback going forward, that's massive for your team. But